What's not to watch? They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on.
In case some of you wonder who the best is, they're up here on this plaque on the wall.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
Here we are, boys and girls. It's the best soccer show on the North American Soccer Network, NESN.TV. Jason Derry, I just screwed up my own name. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois.
Jason Daly?
Jason Lala. Wednesday Night Live edition. And guess what? There's just way too much happening for Jared and I to spend time babbling about stuff that just doesn't matter. No anecdotes.
Can't talk about 90s stuff?
No quips, no 90s. We've got two lead stories tonight. The first one we're going to get to, and we'll get to the Philadelphia Union and all the drama surrounding Sebastian Le Toux and all of those things later. We have Chris Vito from the Delaware County Daily Times who talked to Le Toux. We'll have him on in the second segment. But right now, we have NESN's own Jeff Kassouf from This Week in Women's Soccer to talk about WPS going on hiatus for 2012. How are you, Jeff?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
You don't sound too all right.
That tells a lot right there. That tells a lot.
Yeah, Jeff, I don't know. It's got to be a pretty rough week for anybody covering the game, for anybody, obviously the players, and I think that's the biggest fallout that we've seen so far. Lay out for us. I think a lot of people have jumped to the conclusion that this is all Dan Borislow's fault, but lay out for us why WPS has decided to shut down 2012.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have laid it out that way. I think it's harsh in one end, and on the other end, I mean, I'm not sure that they're incredibly far off base. I mean, to put it solely on him would be crazy. But I mean, I think you look at sort of what really pushed it to the edge. That's been a big factor. But I mean, you know, it's been sort of this long time coming kind of thing. Unfortunately, I mean, that was I kind of collected my thoughts after letting it set in for a day and put up a column yesterday, and I titled it just sadly, inevitable. I mean, it was, you know, it seemed like for about 18 months, at least 18 months really, we kind of sat there and wondered if and when this day might come. And you know, the timing of it coming Monday was a little bit surprising because we were under the impression that things were sort of at least temporarily sorted out in terms of an agreement and sort of a compromise, and then all of a sudden they weren't. But, I mean, the fact that it happened, the fact that WPS has sort of come to the, you know, suspension, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I know they're calling it that, but it's not terribly surprising, unfortunately.
No, it's funny you just brought that up. That was going to be my first question to you as well. The word suspension, it gives the air of perhaps it can come back. And I think I read the letter from the CEO of the Philadelphia Independent saying that they're hoping to come back stronger in 2013. Is that wishful thinking, or do you think this league actually has a chance of restructuring and being back in just a year?
I think it's honest thoughts coming from them. I mean, I know, you know, I speak with, there's only 5 owners, so I mean, it's pretty, relatively at least, easy to keep in touch with them. And I mean, I know that they all speak honestly when they say they have every intent to be back in 2013. For me, it's just that, you know, I don't know that anyone can really predict what a year from now brings. I mean, we can all sit here and say that X, Y, Z is going to happen, but there's a lot that kind of goes on. And when you go dark for a year, essentially, which is what's about to happen. I mean, even, you know, teams can play in the W League and sort of keep the brand alive, but as a league, on, you know, even a little bit of national attention that you were getting, I mean, it goes dark, and I don't know. I mean, I want it to, you know, I'd love to see it come back, and I hope it does. You guys brought up the players. I think that they're kind of hit the hardest. I couldn't imagine being on the train wreck of emotions of some of these players who have been on, you know, 2, 3, 4 folded teams or jump teams here and there, and it's tough on them. But you know, I don't know. I really don't know what a year from now brings. I would, fully optimistic, though.
So, speaking of the players, obviously, some players have more options than others, but really, what next for them? I mean, how many can go and get a job in Europe? How many are going to have to, just not play soccer for a year, at least?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be rough. The national team players will go into residency, which is, fine with them, I'm sure. And then some of these players are in tough positions. I mean, I was able to speak with a couple briefly where, they don't really have many options. I mean, the transfer window, it's February 1st now. So, I mean, the only leagues left that have the transfer window open, and I don't want to limit it, I'm not positive. I know that Sweden's one, and there's only a couple left. So, I mean, there's very limited options. Rosters are sort of pretty much full in these places. And, a lot of them might just have to play W League, which obviously isn't going to pay. And it's going to be tough. I mean, some of them might have to take a year off. And unfortunately, and we saw this when individual teams folded, where players were kind of tied down to those geographic areas, that players might just give up playing professionally altogether.
Jeff, let's get back to real quick to the Borislav, because this is the part that interests me the most. I know I'm probably enjoying this portion of it from maybe almost a soap opera drama style of entertainment, where it just keeps getting more and more terrible. But I can't look away. I mean, it's amazing as the accounts come out of what this guy says and how he acted. And I keep seeing people out there saying, stop blaming Borislav because he gave the league a whole nother year of ability to play. But isn't that like saying that the North Koreans should thank Kim Jong-il for maggot-infested rice and moldy bread?
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there's more to that as well. And I think a lot of people overlook, absolutely that he allowed things to continue. But, I pointed this out for, I guess, a year now, that, I mean, he doesn't even have the opportunity to save the freedom and save the league if Joe Salin doesn't come on board in September 2010, right? Because, they needed the 6 teams, and if Western New York never says, yeah, we're gonna put this on the fast track to being an expansion team and pull it together in, essentially a couple of months, then right. They don't even have that 6 team at that point. So, everything would have folded up before Borislav even came into play. So, I mean, that's something I think a lot of people overlook.
In relation to Boris, now obviously the league has shut down for 2012. A lot of the players are processing this. Some of them are speaking out, and if you haven't seen, there's some blog posts out there, some people on Twitter making a lot of noise. One of the things I've read is from Ella, and I'm not sure, is it Masser or Massar? Her experience with Magic Jack and Borislav Masser, and just talk about what she said and her experience there. And have you had any chance to corroborate her story? I mean, is this stuff that's common knowledge around the community?
I know that. I mean, I can't speak for her story personally, or the specifics of it. I know that the little bit that we do know, it sounds to, it seems to sort of jive with things. A lot of the players that are not national teamers have said that they were basically treated like dirt, and there was sort of a fine line. It was either you were one of Dan's idols. I was told, and I don't know if this was in one of the emails that Goff published, but there was sort of this running thing in emails that Borislav would refer to the national teamers as living legends, and then the rest of them are just peasants or whatever they are. I mean, that wasn't the quote from him, but the living legends was. So yeah, I mean, it seems to sort of jive with it. I know a lot of the problem here is that Ella came out and said something which is great. I think more people need to, but the younger players still kind of, they're still making their way professionally. They're not really in a position to speak out against a former owner or even against, national teamers who command a lot of respect on the, in the women's soccer world.
Yeah, let me ask you about one of those national teams, because the flip side of Ella's story is that Abby Wambach has backed Borislav. Is that, I don't want to speak out of turn about Abby, but is she in Borislav's camp because she was taken care of a little bit more?
that seems to be the sort of general consensus. I mean, I guess like you know, I think that unfortunately with this situation, there's a lot of sort of uncertainties, and that's certainly one of them. I mean, we know. I mean, Dan's told us pretty well that you know, he thinks a player should be paid properly, and all sense that we've gotten that his players were paid pretty well. But you know, I don't think anyone knows the specifics of sort of her or his financial investment in her or anything. So I mean, it's tough to sort of gauge it there. But I mean, what's very clear, as we've seen, particularly in a recent interview with Julie Foudy, is that Abby's support for Borislav, for whatever reason, is unwavering.
Jeff, there's a chance maybe in the summer here to maybe change the talking point and bring it back to a positive nature, where the Olympics coming up, the women's game failed to really capitalize long term on the success of the World Cup, both as the second place finish that they had, and also in the popularity that they gained in it. Is the Olympics the chance to reboot this and put everything back on the table?
I don't know. You know, I mean, you brought it up. We didn't see the World Cup really translate on the WPS level. We saw an attendance boost, and you know, we saw an attention to women's soccer, but it was really an attention to the U.S. women. You know, even a select few of the U.S. women. You know, I don't know that the Olympics, especially with it sort of being a much bigger thing than just a World Cup. I mean, you know, there's a lot of sports, a lot of more high-profile sports going on that. I don't know. I don't know that you can really translate it to WPS, particularly when it didn't happen last year. I mean, there's going dark for a year could be a very rough thing for WPS.
All right, that's Jeff Kassouf. Go make sure you go check out his show This Week in Women's Soccer on NASN.TV. Thanks a lot for the time, Jeff. We appreciate it. Hopefully we can talk to you under some better circumstances in the near future.
Yeah, maybe the U.S. will win a gold or something.
There we go. Let's cross our fingers. All right, thanks a lot, Jeff. I didn't get to really lay out a little bit of Ella Masser's story. She wrote this blog post, and in it, she talked about how she picked up a nose injury. She got elbowed to in the nose or something like that.
She said kicked to the nose.
Kicked something. I'm sorry about the details, but she went to Dan Borislav, who at this point basically, you know, was doing everything for Magic Deck. Didn't want to hire a trainer. Apparently, this is the story. Didn't have a trainer. She saw a chiropractor down there in South Florida who said that he couldn't reset it. She didn't. Borislav said he'd take her to the hospital. Ends up taking her. I don't know what was taking her to like a party or like a
saying
a poker
he was going to
game.
take her to a hospital. Took her out to dinner with his kids. And somehow, like, not till the next day she got home or something. It was some weird, crazy story.
Yeah, and then
it's like something out of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas kind of road trip. I don't know.
Then the team has a showdown over whether or not they're going to stand up to Borislav. She's the only one that kind of sticks to her guns and walks out, and she's made it. It's a ridiculously it's just shocking, the story. You need to go find it. I don't have
a professional team that doesn't have a trainer on staff. I mean, that gives you a lot of sense of, if that's correct, a lot of sense of what other perks may have not been not established with that club. I mean, a chiropractor on a professional team step away from using leeches.
Having a trainer for a professional soccer team is not a perk. That's a necessity. The detail I just glossed over, the detail I missed that she put in her blog post, is that at one point, I don't know how often he did this, Borislav told the team to call him daddy.
I've asked women to do the same thing, but under much different circumstances.
Well, see, that's why it's weird, and that's why it's hinky, and that's why Dan Borislav.
It's weird when I do it or when he does it?
When he does it. Well, it's probably weird when you do it too, but
Most likely, yes.
Look, the whole thing is sordid and ugly, and again, the WPS shutting down for 2012 isn't just about Dan Borislav. Now, the league incurred some legal fees fighting him on kicking him out of the league and all of that. But there were some other issues involved, and it's not just about Magic Jack. But, and as Jeff said, as you pointed out, you know, it was a couple of years in a row they needed a savior. So they get a savior, and then eventually, you know, the lifelines they run out. All right,
I just feel bad for the honest, hardworking owners in that league that they're getting blindsided. Well, not blindsided, but they're just getting overshadowed by a guy that wants attention.
We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk to Chris Vito. Jason and Jared back on the Best Soccer Show, NASN.TV, and we have to get into immediately the other big story of the last couple of days. Most of this went down yesterday, today, in the last, 36 hours or so at the most, Jared.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Union have decided to dump their best player. They traded him to Vancouver. This is after he had gone to Bolton on a trial, Sebastian Le Toux. And in order to talk about all of this, we've got Chris Vito from the Delaware County Daily Times, who spoke to Le Toux, has a pretty damning story with Le Toux's comments about what happened with the Union. How are you, Chris?
Good, Jared, Jason. Good to talk to you guys.
It's good to have you on. Okay, so let's talk about this this situation here. Sebastian Le Toux gets. We hear he's on trial. He's going to Bolton. Next thing you know, he's back. I don't really know what happened there. Then we hear that maybe the Union are shopping him around. There's rumors floating around that Vancouver is the place. Turns out it's true, and Le Toux's gone. And this is fairly stunning for imagine for Union fans, but especially for us sitting here going, what the hell is going on in Philadelphia? When you got a hold of Sebastian, talk a little bit about the conversation you had with him and what he had to say about how everything went down.
Yeah, Sebastian and I got to be pretty close on the beat. Just one of those stand-up guys who will always answer questions and hold himself accountable, win, lose, draw, whatever. So during his time in Bolton, I reached out to him, texted him. Obviously, he was under rules. I guess he could not respond when he got back. We'd been talking a little bit more, and he had a feeling something was going to happen. And within a minute after he posted that tweet Tuesday morning that he was traded, even before the Union sent out a press release, he gave me a call and said, let's meet up and let's talk. And that's when I got the feeling that, he was going to give me, the chance to talk to him one-on-one, which, is something I'm very fortunate for, because we've struck up a pretty good accord over the years.
Now, Sebastian's made a lot of comments in your interview with him about the treatment of him as a player. The company, the team needs to make money, so they have to sell him. Has this been anything you've been able to corroborate with any other people that have recently left or been linked with moves going out of Philly, that the team needs to clear cap space?
You know what? It's something that if I had a stronger relationship with a couple of the guys, and maybe I will when they come through on their respective road trips this year, I will try to reach out to a couple of the guys who have gone their separate ways from the Union, be it by trade or being released or what have you. But I've been asked a couple times whether this is just the speech of a jilted player, someone who just wants to sound off against someone who traded him unwillingly and kind of by surprise. And Peter Novak was given the opportunity today at an open training session to kind of deny anything that Sebastian said, and Peter did not. So take that for what it's worth.
One of the things that sticks out to me in your story, Chris, is despite the fact that Le Toux looks like he was kind of mistreated, or at least wasn't told what was going on, and first of all, he doesn't have an agent, which sticks out, and number two, there's a point where you write that he asked for about $400,000 from the team, which I'm guessing would be about non-DP max, and then said he'd sign any contract, and it wasn't about money. So which one was it? Was it about making non-DP max money, or was it, I'll sign anything to stay in Philadelphia?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, guys. The one thing you have to consider with Sebastian was whether the Union want to admit it or not, he was absolutely one of the best bargains in Major League Soccer. He only made $301,000 in his 2 seasons with the Union, for which he accounted for 57% of their goals, 25 goals and 20 assists. I mean, without him, they don't make playoffs in the final push there toward the end of the season last year, where he had 11 goals in 13 matches. I mean, he wanted his due, which is fair enough. From what he told me, he sat down with management, he sat down with technical staff, and said, "This is the number that I have in my head. Let's talk." And it did get to the point where he was getting no's, and he was having calls and texts not returned. So he did say to me, "Yeah, listen, you put any contract in front of me, I want to stay here." He was looking to buy a house in a nearby suburb. He and his girlfriend are they've been together for a while, so he was looking to settle down here, and he liked the fans, he liked the city, loved the community and the area, and this is where he wanted to be.
Now, you mentioned the fans, and it seems like the reaction from fans, which I think is to be expected, has been unilaterally negative to this move. And it seems all the weight of the fans, the negative emotions, is going onto the club. Does Sebastian Le Toux, is there anything that he needs to own in this? Maybe in that he doesn't have an agent, and that maybe spurred the talks, didn't let the talks go on further. And what has the basic fan reaction been on the Philly streets?
Well, the one thing I'll address first with the agent part, Sebastian had said to me in the past, and even Tuesday, he said that he prefers to serve as his own agent because that way he can work on a faith basis. These are people that he works with and sees every day, from Nick Sikevich, the CEO of the team, to Peter and the rest of the technical staff. So he prefers to see the offer that he's going to sign and work on that with the people that he trusts, and they trust him. So in that regard, he said he wasn't going to look toward having agent representation. As far as fan response, clearly very overwhelmingly negative. This team, within a span of 24 hours, agreed to dissipate the contract of its captain goalkeeper, Farid Mondragon, who was an all-star last year, and he finished second in the MLS Goalkeeper of the Year award voting. Less than a day later, their leading goal scorer is traded away. So clearly, the fan base incorporated its feelings a little bit when it came to responding to this. And I guess Peter and his staff are really relying on the fan base, which has been pretty supportive through thick and thin, through having only 8 wins. It's an inaugural season to last year, putting up with a lot of turnover. And Peter has said, please have faith, because he and the staff know what they're doing. So I guess it's up to the fans to really shoulder this one for now.
Well, I gotta wonder, Chris, this is Philadelphia. Whether they're soccer fans or football fans or hockey fans, it's Philadelphia. Is the bloom off the rose now? Has Novak, I understand he's got a job to do and he may think this is the best way to go about it, but I'm not sure he completely understands what he's dealing with. And I'm not saying that the fans will turn their back on the team. I'm just saying that it's not going to get easy, and things are we're everything was great and gravy, and the team's new, and you improved from year 1 to year 2. Now what?
Right. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. They have a beautiful stadium that's a natural draw. They have a young, energetic team that surely will compete for a playoff spot this year, but I'm not sure how much you can really hang your hat on that year in and year out. I think the Union tried to make a move last year with Freddie Adu to really shore up a playoff spot and try to make the sell to the fans that, hey, we're in this together. We want to push here for a championship. Now, Freddie had a lingering ankle issue that kind of held him out. But I think Peter knows what he's in for. He coached in D.C., he coached in Chicago. These are hard-nosed fan base areas, heavy in sports. He knows what he's in for, and I think with Peter today, he did mention that, hey, this was strictly a business move. This is something that the fans might not want to understand, but have to understand that ultimately what the Union spent on Sebastian Le Toux, they were hoping to recoup and then some, because the club and league policy states that they don't have to necessarily release the totals. We don't know exactly what the Union got back in return for Sebastian. I'm sure there will be a time when that will come out, and when it does, I'd be happy to come back on again and talk about it, and whether they got fair trade for it. But we don't know exactly what they got. But from purely a business standpoint, the Union were looking to profit off of a guy who they hadn't put out a lot of money for, and maybe they did, and maybe we're all fools, and this was a great business move.
So Philly down Mondragon, down Le Toux, maybe most likely to out Freddie Adu. I don't see a way where he comes back and becomes a real contributor to this team. And Chris, you still said you think this is a playoff contention team. Is that a statement on how poor the East is? Or if Philly is, who's going to step up for Philly and take up these voids?
It's funny you say that, because I think it's a little bit of both. The East was wretched last year. Mm-hmm. If you look at it again, I'm sure the same scenario could shake out again where, the East teams just lag so far behind the West. I do have good knowledge that Freddie is back and he's healthier than he was last year. He's sliding, he's accepting physicality and tackling in training and preseason. I'm not sure what kind of Freddie Adu we'll see, but I figure he's going to be more of a contributor than he will last year.
You'll see a Freddie Adu that wants to go back to Europe, but that might be a good thing for the Union in the short run.
Who knows? That's not a bad point either. With Sebastian gone, the hat for this team has to be hung on its back line, which is primarily intact from last year. The only difference is they've moved Gabriel Farfan from the left back up to the midfield where he's more comfortable anyway. They did sign a left back in the off season, someone with a natural left foot who spent his not college days, but Gabriel never played college ball on the back line. They feel like they have a stronger back line now with Carlos Valdez and Danny Califf, and they're going to need that back line, especially with a second-year goalkeeper in Zach McMath back there without Mondragon. So this will be a defense-heavy team, the kind of team that we saw last year where they tried to win 1-0. And whether that's a success or not, I guess remains to be determined.
A lot of these moves look like they were all kind of leading up to the purchase, the completion of the purchase of Roger Torres. Does that put extra pressure on Roger Torres now?
You know what? We asked him today in availability with Roger, and he said through a translator that he doesn't feel any extra responsibility to contribute. He said he's felt the pressure since he was here, even if it was only on a loan basis. So, you know what? I don't think you're ever going to see Roger Torres as a legitimate goal scorer. He is more of a crafty midfielder who will possess enough to get the ball he'll be one of those guys who will get the ball from the back line up top of the attack. He's a guy who is going to be nifty. He's going to come up. He might outthink himself sometimes on approaches. But I'll tell you what, he seems to make everybody else around him better. So I don't blame the Union for which Novak did. He did confirm this. He said that part of the money that was spent on Roger Torres was from Sebastian Le Toux's allocation money acquisition from Vancouver. So that will be the automatic. That will be the draw. That will be the reason that we say whether this trade was good or bad. Maybe that whether Roger Torres has a good season and whether that's fair or not to put on a 20-year-old. I'm not so sure, but it's the position the Union put themselves in.
All right, that is Chris Vito. Go check out his article with the Delaware County Daily Times online all over the place. Everybody linked it on Twitter because it was a fantastic piece of work. Thanks a lot, Chris. We appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, hey, one more thing.
Sure.
I just want to plug DelcoTimes.com is a premier site to go see the Union, and at Chris Vito is my Twitter account where I post the latest news, notes, and observations.
There you go. Follow Chris Vito on Twitter. Thanks a lot, buddy. We'll talk to you.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate it.
All right, so
thanks, Jared. See, he knows who really controls the show.
Yeah. I got left out. No, that's fine. Look, the fallout is going to be interesting to watch in Philadelphia. I really don't. I mean, he could say it, and I know people respect Peter Novak as a coach, but I just don't know that he understands what he's dealing with. And he even had to tweet today from his Twitter account. He's on Twitter. He had to tweet tell everybody to stop cursing at him on Twitter because his daughter sees the account or something. So obviously the Philly fans.
So in person at games is okay, but online where everyone normally cusses, that's too much.
Yeah, but do you honestly, this is what I'm talking about the bloom being off the rose, the era of good feelings being over. Do you honestly think that at any point up till now, Philadelphia fans were cursing at their own team or their own coach?
No. I think that was one of the most positive teams about their own
Which
team
is why,
in the entire league. So much so, and they had so much going for them that they've got the All-Star game. And I think rightly so. They have done great things there as a fan base, as a team, great stadium, and there's so much positivity around that team. To have this happen now, I don't know if Novak can really come back from it.
So weird. Going to be so much fun to watch just from the outside, being an observer. And if you are a fan of any other sports and know how Philly responds, I don't want to paint with a broad brush here, but it's still Philadelphia.
If his daughter's worried about the internet, don't watch TV and read the banners the first opening day.
There you go. We are live. We've started off the show gangbusters with two guests, but we are live. 201-430-2378 is our phone number if you want to jump in on WPS, on the Union, on anything else that's going on. We had the European transfer window closing yesterday, last day of January. not a whole lot of things going on in general, and definitely not a whole lot going on with Americans, which would be our first concern. The only thing that really happened from an American perspective is Mikkel Diskerud goes to Belgium, signs with Ghent. I think that's how you. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
a Belgian
I'm
accent
not sure.
on
Is that a move up? It's a loan.
I think it's definitely a move up.
Move. I'm not really sure.
No, it's definitely a move up. Belgium is a good league, and that is the second place team in Belgium behind Sascha Kljestan's Anderlecht. So this is a good team in a good league, and it's a step up for Mikkel Diskerud. He's not going to start right away, but we can't. We wouldn't expect that anyway for a young player like him. So
it's just I'm not used to seeing loans up. I'm used to seeing loans down or
wait,
lateral.
Is it a loan?
It's not often you see a.
It was a loan.
Teams low out. If a player's that good enough to play at that level, why wouldn't a team want to keep them in their starting lineup?
Yeah, well, like his team has. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his team right now. Is it that quick? His team has financial issues. They're dealing with. It might be Stayback or whatever. They're having financial issues, and they need to dump some salary, and they're dumping Mikkel Diskerud to Belgium. And if this works out, I mean, this is, like I said, it's a step up for him as a player. So if it works out, it's great. I mean, you're not going to be concerned about why he was dropped, because he really wasn't dropped down. He was dropped to a place where he can improve as a player. So there's that. I mean, again, not a lot to talk about with the American guys. Charlie Davies is going to be at the show at least until the summer. He's going to have to try
underwhelming. If someone had told
you
you 3 months ago, where would Charlie Davies be? Sasha would probably be the last place I'd say he'd end up by the end of the last transfer window.
Just don't
anywhere else really.
Yeah, I guess there were some. I think there were some nibbles, and if you read No Short Corners and Greg Seltzer's work, you may have seen this. There were a couple of bites in Scandinavia and a couple of places. It's just whether or not they see that they're getting enough return on their dollar or the euro over there in France. So. I don't think Charlie's going to get a whole lot of playing time. I'd like to be more positive about this situation. I don't think it's going to work out in the long run for him. And then, again, the guys that we maybe hoped would move or complete something but didn't.
I don't know if I hoped they moved, but I was hoping. I don't know.
Rumors?
I don't know if I hoped
you
they
wanted
moved,
Clint
but
Dempsey
I was excited
rumors.
if they would be Clint Dempsey.
You wanted Clint Dempsey. You at least wanted rumors, right? You wanted to hear that Arsenal was really coming in for him but just couldn't get it done, or he somewhere in Spain the Spanish are admirers of Clint Dempsey, got a write-up in Marca.
Yeah,
so he's getting his reputation is getting around, which I think lends itself to the possibility of a summer thing. But this January, just not much going on.
Here's the thing: the Americans are doing a great job on the field in the month of January,
right?
And on big stages as well. They're just not making any big moves. But here's the thing: your question for you: which is more underwhelming to you, Davies staying at Sasho or Dempsey not leaving Fulham?
Which is more underwhelming? I honestly didn't have any expectations of Clint Dempsey going anywhere. I was surprised Fulham sold Bobby Zamora, so I didn't expect anything to happen with Clint Dempsey. So
I would think the blue chip there is Dempsey right now, the hot hand that's got all the pub rather than Zamora. Zamora's a great player, and I personally feel that
Zamora's
he looks
English,
like skinny black Don Rickles. But
well, like I said, Zamora's English, and there's that's always a weird thing when they're overvalued. I don't know what QPR was looking for when they went in for Bobby Zamora. Bobby Zamora's not the same player as Clint Dempsey. There's nothing wrong with Clint Dempsey staying at Fulham. We're just all. No. We are all expectant of him going and doing bigger things, just like the people who say Landon Donovan has to be in Europe. Yeah, well, just like the people who say Landon Donovan should be in Europe full time, we're all putting this on them. And if Clint Dempsey hadn't said I want to play Champions League soccer, then maybe we're not talking about this. But he did say that.
Dempsey is now getting a taste of what Landon Donovan's had to put up with since he was 17, and that's to have a country's hopes pinned solely on you to prove an entire country can play.
Right, absolutely.
That's what's at stake for Dempsey now.
Yeah, he scored again today for Fulham. I think they got a draw. Do I have that right?
Draw with West Brom.
With West Brom. So the guy's just on fire, and if he keeps
7 goals in 3 games or something.
If he keeps it up throughout the rest of the year, I mean, he's not going to stay on the same form the rest of the year. But if he keeps it up, he's going to get Fulham's going to get somebody calling them in the summer. He's only got a year left in the summer on his contract anyway. Once we get
if you're going to get something for him, you got to make a move in the summer. Right. Otherwise, you're going to see him go away for free.
Yep, let's take a break. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Thanks to Chris Vito. We'll be right back. Jason and Jared back on the Best Soccer Show. First day of February 2012. I keep forgetting that this is the year the world ends. I keep forgetting that. You think
but
that
not till December, so let's
Yeah,
party
I
in
know,
the
but you
meantime.
think that would be on the top of my brain all the time. That this is the year the world ends. But, you know.
Yeah, if you're an idiot.
Look, and this is the thing. I think if this is going to be the year the world ends, then we're going to get. I think we're going to get the best. I don't know this. I keep saying I'm the booster. The guy who says every year is better than last year. I think last year was the best MLS season ever. We're going to get another best MLS season ever in 2012.
You'll know. So you'll know it's the year the world ends if the Revolution win the cup.
Unless it's not going to be the best ever if you're not a Galaxy fan, because the Galaxy.
Luckily, I am.
Luckily, you are. Look to be a juggernaut of unheard of proportions in this league.
It's amazing that there's a salary cap somewhere in there.
Well, this is what I was thinking today, okay? Because Edson Buddle is back with the LA Galaxy now. I don't know how much they paid, how much they're giving him. I don't know how the salary cap is working out. People are a little on top of that. We'll get to that, I guess. But this is what I'm thinking. At the end of the 2011 season, all right, you've got an MLS Cup. Great. The all-in worked out. I mean, not with the same guys, because you had to get Robbie Keane, JPA, that didn't work out, everything else, okay? But you get your title. And then, maybe Beckham's going to PSG, and, Janino's gone, and there's, you got holes to
Omar
fill.
Omar from ACL.
Well, okay, that's before. I'm talking about the end of the season. Omar, at that point, there were some rumors Omar might go. Various things were going on. And it was kind of a given that either LA would be, maybe take a step back at the best possibility, take a step back. Here we are in February of 2012. You've re-signed Beckham. You got Donovan playing well in England again. Yes, Omar tore his ACL. That's a big blow. And yes, Janino's gone, but you still got Robbie Keane coming back, and he's scoring goals in England. He's just doing his thing. And you got Edson Buddle back, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, can anybody stand up to the Galaxy again?
It looks like the type of team that can make a run for like most goals ever scored in the league. It really does. But I'm not sure about them defensively. A lot of people saying, hey, they still have 3 of their 4 back line that was best defense in the league. But Omar Gonzalez is a big part of that. And Leonardo, for those who don't know, the lone the central defender that started the year with Omar Gonzalez last year is back from ACL injury as well.
Right, he's not going to be Omar Gonzalez, but yeah.
Yeah, there's some questions in the back, but up front, good Lord, everyone's been talking for a couple of years. Who's going to be the partner striker for LA? Hey, it's the same guy that was your premier striker 2 years ago.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm high on Edson Buddle as an MLS player. I mean, he goes to Germany. When he played, he scored. I don't know everything that happened at Ingolstadt. I know they dropped him because
How much is too much to pay for Edson Buddle?
There was some talk today that because he lost a lot of leverage without any options, it obviously didn't come together at Everton and West Ham, and he kind of came back to MLS with his tail between his legs just a little bit. You could probably get him at a reasonable price. I don't know. I think I said that Edson Buddle was a $250,000 player, and I don't think I'm gonna back down from that. I think
you're in that range. I think he was trying to get around 4 when he left and didn't get the contract he wanted. He went over to Germany, saying he came for $250. That's probably going to put him pretty close to where he was when he left. I'm not sure his stock dropped. I just don't think it went up.
Right. He could be at 250. He could be at 3. I mean, for us, that's a lot of money, but for LA, that's splitting
what needs to happen though is Tim Lewicki needs to buy Josh Saunders a Mercedes or something, because Josh Saunders becoming the number 1 keeper allows Tim Lewicki the leverage to bring Edson Buddle back to this team.
Because you traded Donovan Ricketts to Montreal.
Exactly.
Yes. That's certainly something to be said. I mean, I'm no Galaxy fan, meaning I'm not rooting for them to win week in and week out. But when it comes
to entertaining,
when it comes to MLS, I want to see entertaining teams. I want to see teams that are going for it, that have the ability to score goals. And clearly, the Galaxy are going to be that team in 2012 if everybody is healthy. Now, you still haven't replaced Janino. I mean, you could.
So if basically LA's throwing the bar down, put a line in the sand, whatever cliche you want to throw out there.
Yeah.
Does New York have to sign someone like Michael Ballack to even come close to competing?
I don't think Michael Ballack is that kind of splash, though. How are you gonna when you're talking about Donovan, Keane, Beckham, and Buddle? How are you going? I mean, what? Okay, New York's got Henry, and they've got Rodgers, who got his visa situation fixed, and they've got Agudelo, who may take a step. There's some talent there, but if they want to make a splash, You know what the rumor is? And this is, I don't know how far out there. I mean, it's really far out there. But the rumor is that New York is making a run at Steven Ireland. Now, how ridiculous.
Ooh, that's sexy.
How ridiculous is that, though? Like, why would Steven Ireland ever consider coming to MLS at this point? And he's playing well for Aston Villa. Why would he do that? I think it's amazing.
But the average American doesn't know who the hell Steven Ireland is. I mean, hey, it might help you on the field, and I get it. Maybe that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
But when LA's bringing Robbie Keane and Beckham, they have Donovan, you got Henry over there in New York. Steven Ireland, come on, dude.
No. But Steven Ireland is a very, 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 very
without
good
a
player.
doubt, without a doubt. But I'm just saying, you're leveraging the. I don't think people are going to be buying Steven Ireland shirts unless it's an Irish dude that wants the word Ireland on the back of his jersey.
Okay, no, and Steven Ireland is not Robbie Keane, but you could make the argument that to the average fan, there's really not that much of a difference between Robbie Keane and Steven Ireland. I'm just saying.
I'll give you that.
The average fan is going to go, oh, an Irish guy, okay. They don't, he played in the Premier League, okay. Beyond that, there's not a lot of...
They have no clue who he is.
Yeah, they're not going to know the difference between Robbie Keane and what he did.
Listen,
and
it would be a
Ireland
great signing for
his
New York.
grandma.
I'm not going to debate that.
Okay.
Great signing for New York.
They're not going to sign him. No. They're not signing Steve. I'm just saying the rumor.
You're throwing rumor out there, so I'm going to rumor run with it.
But I'm saying that you said what would New York have to do if they were going to, if this was going to be an arms race and they were going to fire salvos back and forth, what can New York do? Steven Ireland is a gigantic. That's a bigger shot than LA has. It's just that it's not going to happen, and LA is already stacked in more places than New York could possibly hope to be at this point. That's all I'm saying.
But both have lost a center back.
One's sold, one injured. We should hit emails because we try to do that every time out these days. This one is from our friend Luke Lohr, who is MLS Reserves on Twitter. Hey guys, regardless of what he said, she said out in Philadelphia over Sebastian Le Toux, did Novak do more harm than good in letting Le Toux go? There is something to be said for a fan favorite, particularly in a town such as Philadelphia. There's much more to come in the story, but I wonder if Novak hasn't disenfranchised himself with his fans there. And that's what I was basically saying. Is that when you're coaching in Philadelphia, you write a fine line between everybody loves you and everybody hates you. There's not a whole lot of in between. Ask Andy Reid how this goes. You can win a lot of games, but if you're not winning championships or you're not living up to expectations, and the Union aren't expected to win championships yet, but if you're not doing right by the guys that the fans love, then you're going to have problems. And I'm not saying that Peter Novak will crumble under any pressure that could be brought by Philadelphia Union fans. I just think it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they start booing at PPL Park, because that is a distinct possibility. If they start booing at PPL
Philly
Park,
fans boo,
how does
I don't
that
believe
go?
you.
How does that go down?
Here's in Chris Vito's piece, the gentleman we just had on, in his piece, he talks about Sebastian Le Toux making 300-some thousand, just low 300,000 over 2 years, trying to get 400,000 a year. It's an opening number, okay? If you can get Sebastian Le Toux even down to maybe 300,000, how is that not still one of the best bargains in the league? And tell me the difference in that number is not worth the amount of goals, assists, and fan trust
He's the face of the
that they're going to be
franchise.
losing this season.
He's the face of the franchise. If Edson Buddle is a $300,000 player, which is a possible number that LA is paying him, what is Sebastian Le Toux worth? If that's the case, at least that, probably more.
He's a short list MVP candidate 2 years in a row.
Right, absolutely. Let's see. This one is from Hugh Jarrett. ESPN.com writer Michelle Vopel highlighted the strained relationship between U.S. soccer and women's professional soccer. She also spotlighted the infancy and demise of the WUSA in a short period. Miss Vopel factored WPS's stumbling and disorganization and poor spending model, as is the players face uncertainty. And basically, he says the business and economic models for WPS just weren't going to work. So this is the problem with having a women's soccer league, knowing the hurdles that you have to jump over. Because this is what you can say about MLS is, while they took 10, 12, 15 years to figure out who their fan base should be and who they should be going after, they were given the opportunity to grow through those rough times. They had benefactors. They had to close down 2 teams, but the league never stopped. When you're dealing with smaller margins and you're dealing with much less I don't know. Just the natural fan base is much smaller for women's soccer. You just don't have the leeway. You can't take a step back
and also,
and still go
as I understand it, and if I misunderstand this, please correct me. But my understanding is that MLS offered to maybe do some type of deal to make a women's program within MLS, but also
that was
I understand.
With WUSA back in the day. Is that what
exactly.
you said?
But because they wanted to go off on their own, they had to do a much more, I would say, risky business model. They could have had the MLS infrastructure and access to the MLS benefactors, as you just said, and maybe grown slowly as well. But they chose to go a different route, and because of that factor,
but
they now have lost 2 leagues.
Okay, but hindsight is 20/20 on that. I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been better for WUSA to join up with MLS in some way, whatever that offer was. I don't know the details of that. But
WNBA is still here. No, there's a reason for it.
I know, but the NBA has way more money than MLS did back then and does now. The NBA is way bigger. So if they want to subsidize the WNBA, then that's their prerogative. They can do it. MLS cannot afford to subsidize a women's league, in my mind. It has to be more of a joint venture than the way the WNBA and NBA work. But I don't know that that's the silver bullet either. Just because you put the men and the women together in some business relationship doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work out. It doesn't mean that the league will prosper. I think it gives you
more of a safety net and more of more financial areas where you can build together. Like double headers. People, I would go see a double header in a second.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, I know that's happened in the past with less of a direct relationship. They just scheduled those things together, and maybe that's the way to go. But I don't know. It's just unfortunate. I don't know what the answer is, because, like I said, if you don't have the Anschuts and the Hunts and those people stepping up to kind of shoulder the entire burden, and I don't know that that's the answer either. But if you don't have them to shoulder the burden, then you're not going to get through the lean times to see it out to grow and get better the way MLS has managed to do. Let's see. We got
Did you
more?
happen to mention that was from Hugh Jarrett, that email? I don't remember if you said so or not.
I did mention that. I did mention the guy's name was Hugh Jarrett. Is there something that you know about Hugh Jarrett?
I just Hugh Jarrett. First of all, I mean, it's
a classy name, isn't it?
that sounds like an English footballer.
Yeah. You know what? It very much does. Or a cricketer.
I was thinking the other day. I was thinking like actors whose names sound like. I was thinking actors whose names sound like footballers. The number one I could think of was Liam Neeson.
That's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. I don't know if I can come back.
Any Hugh will do. Hugh Grant, obviously.
Yeah.
Any Hugh.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah, but Liam Neeson, I think that's a good footballer's name.
That's a pretty good. I'm just blanking on actors right now, but I'm sure
Russell Crowe.
Well, he did actually. I think he was a footballer, wasn't he? Was it
Russell
Crowe? No, you're right. He was Aussie Rules or rugby or something. I'm thinking of who's the Irish actor? He was a footballer when he was a kid. When he was young.
Gordon Ramsay?
No,
Colin
Farrell.
Snatch?
Colin Farrell played soccer when he was younger. Javier Bardem sounds like a mid-table Spanish midfielder. That's pretty good. That's not a bad shout. Let's see. We've got the last one is from Benjamin Robles, and he just says, "Does the addition of Buddle make the Galaxy MLS's de facto super team?" Actually, I think it's Super Club. It's Super Club Big S Big C, as our man Alexi likes to say.
Here's what I'm going to enjoy this season, and maybe you got this kind of the same thing last season, but an injury to Javier Morales kind of negated it a bit. I'm going to enjoy seeing the big stars of LA go up against and how they match up over the course of the season with a team like Real Salt Lake that's well coached, well refined, and doing it a completely different way in a smaller market.
Right. No, I think
that success of those two teams.
Right, and that contrast has been there before. And this is the great thing about the West is it doesn't look like it's going to be taking major steps back. Those teams, Seattle, Real Salt Lake, LA, I don't know about FC Dallas this year. There's
even Portland making moves.
Portland's making moves. They've got a new DP, Chris Boyd. So there's things happening that will push the Galaxy. I still think they're the far and away the favorite for both the league and the cup. It's the best soccer show, NASN.TV. Jason and Jared will be right back. We'll close this one out. Live Wednesday. Don't go anywhere. Jason and Jared, Best Soccer Show, NASN.TV. We are here to close this episode out. Live on a Wednesday evening. None of you people called. I'm so disappointed. I love you anyway. Please don't stop listening.
We got plenty of calls last week.
Yeah, we did. We killed it last week with the U.S. men's national team game, and that usually is a driver of calls. Now,
actually, you know who killed it last week? Our fans. I mean, we had a lot of callers. Biggest volume night we've ever had on a live show by far.
Yes.
I mean, they turned out, and I'm glad that they got the good responses as well. And
that was a special circumstance. It was a Wednesday. There was a game right in our normal window. We will consider, we will work around games. We're going to see if we can do that again. If it works out logistically and both Jared and I are available, why not? Why not?
Sure.
We will do it. Now,
sure.
And we even had people, like I said, that liked it as a podcast, so that's good. Somebody else killing it, Jared, the Portland Timbers, they signed Chris Boyd, Scottish Premier League's leading scorer of all time, to a DP contract. He's 28. Now, he's got a reputation as being a little lazy, but, you take your chances. It's MLS. You're not getting the best of the
Pacific Northwest goes at a different speed anyway.
Well, he said no to Houston, which is the interesting part of this story. Houston gets a draft pick because they had a discovery claim.
They saw how Houston treats their premier strikers.
Oh no! I thought the story is that he knows it's really hot in Houston, which I can kind of understand that. Who wants to play in that heat? But Portland gets Chris Boyd. And they get Charles Rankin. Now, if you don't know Charles Rankin's story, he was born in quick producer because I forget off the top of my head. Was it? I don't want to say it wrong. No, see, you got a question mark. I can't trust you. Charles Rankin is born in Africa. A lot of hardship in his life. Ends up in the United States. Is adopted, I believe, by a family in Illinois. I think Bimbe is his original last name. Fantastic player in the mold of Adu in terms of just pure skill. Zambia is the country. Pure skill, lots of hype around him. Not quite Freddie Adu hype, obviously, because a lot of people still don't know who he is. He ended up with the Vancouver White. He was in the U.S. youth system setup for a while. Yeah. Ends up with Vancouver Whitecaps Academy, Residency Academy, before they made the move to MLS. Then they sold him to Hoffenheim in Germany. He was with Hoffenheim. Apparently, he's had a couple of knee injuries that have really slowed down his development. The way that MLS said that he was taken by the Timbers off of waivers, which is what's confusing everybody here because
he was never actually signed with anyone. Never been on waivers.
How are you on waivers if you never signed with an MLS team?
But it doesn't really matter that much anyway because the way it sounds, every team in the league passed on him.
That's my opinion on this. That everybody's getting caught up on a word, and whatever the word is, the point is that everybody but the Timbers passed on Charles Rankin. That's why there's no lottery like there was with Lee Wen. What
I'm happy about is that MLS didn't call it a super waiver.
That's a good one. But I don't know if this is going to work out. Charles Rankin is, he's a project. He is. Because of his knees, he's a project. Everybody knows he's talented. It's just whether or not he can hold up.
I don't know what price they got him for, but obviously the price he was probably trying to get from the league or whatever the league signed him back for was probably steep enough that not a lot of teams want to take a chance. There's plenty of teams out there who take a chance on a young, talented guy that they could get on the cheap. No Generation Adidas contract here, not through the draft. I mean, he's got baggage, and it's hard to say that about an 18-year-old kid that he already has injury baggage and maybe costing the league too much. But I hope he has success. Portland's taking a risk here,
right?
But I think Portland's the type of team with a player like Perlaza and stuff like that. They have a good amount of midfield depth that they can maybe bring this kid on slowly. And I'm excited to see what he can do, but it's definitely a risk to be sure.
Absolutely. Any other news and notes? We should note that we mentioned Clint Dempsey's goal. We should mention Landon Donovan's assist in Everton's win over Manchester City, which is a big win in the race for the title. A big loss, 3 points for Manchester City, but it's another notch in Donovan's belt. I was on Twitter when this game was going on. I was at work and I was watching Twitter while the game was going on. I got home, I found the highlights. Okay, fine. He makes the right pass. It's a little layoff to Darren Gibson.
First touch is rough.
There's not much going on there, though. I mean, it's not like Donovan.
I'll give him this.
Threaded it through.
Yeah, you're right. The first touch was rough, But in that situation, as soon as that ball's on the ground, a lot of players rush a shot inside the 18 at that angle.
Okay, but we know what Donovan is now. He's the kind of guy that's thinking pass first these days, unless he's got a clear shot, unless he's, in on the keeper by himself.
Donovans are looking pass first for about 4 years.
No, that's what I'm saying. And I think that the number of assists, which is what people are focusing on with his Everton stint, and rightfully so, but the number of assists indicates that, Donovan is not the same player he was 5-6 years ago, that he was, when his job was to score goals, he scored goals. Now his job is something else, or he's just decided to turn himself into a different player, knowing he doesn't quite have the speed anymore, or just for whatever reason. He's become a better passer.
It doesn't take a lot of speed to shoot.
No, it doesn't. And he can still do that. I just, maybe he's...
I'd like to see him notch at least one goal during his time with Everton right now. Maybe I'm asking for way too much right now, because the guy's playing great. He's got man of the match honors or consideration for almost every game he's been in with Everton.
Yep.
He's got a bunch of assists. Maybe I'm asking too much. Give me a good shot on goal.
Yeah.
You're coming back to my team here in a couple of weeks. I need to see that you can score.
One goal would be nice. All right, that's it. That's it for us. We are on iTunes, ratings and reviews, as I always talk about. What else am I missing? Emails, show at American Soccer. Oh my God. That was such a disaster right there. Show at bestsoccershow.com.
I'll give you credit, though. It only took you 4 months.
Oh my God. I'm probably bright red. I have no idea where that came from.
You're always bright red.
I'm going to get a tongue lashing after this show.
You can also get us on Roku, Apple TV.
Save me.
You can definitely give us a call, leave us voicemails. We have a nice little message for you if you call our phone number.
Yes.
All those ways to get in touch with us. We'll be here on Sunday for a show. Maybe have a guest. We'll see what we can work on for you guys.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody.
And or hello.
Well, I'm never going to live that one down. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Later. Ha ha ha.